everything learning, leadership coaching, and personal growth. I am Dr. Maurine Kwende, your host. I'm a learning leader, researcher, educator, an author, and an executive leadership coach who's passionate about helping organizations develop their leaders to become leaders people want to work for. That's what we do at my company, EMK Learning Solutions. Connect with me on social media to work with your organization to transform your leaders. I'd like to welcome those who are joining us for the first time on the Empowerment Minutes podcast. And here, every month we have a theme. This month's theme is about the intersection of technology and leadership. So we're going to be focusing on today the critical aspect of leadership in the tech industry, building a culture, an ethical culture. As technology evolves, so does ethical responsibilities of those who lead. As a leader, you have to take those responsibilities to protect the organization. So today we're going to explore how leaders can navigate the challenges that technology presents in the organizations and how leaders can foster an environment of integrity and accountability. So let's dive in. So when we think about technology, it's really a double-edged sword. It brings us incredible innovation, convenience. For example, AI that we use for various reasons. And it's made our life a lot easier. I personally use it as a virtual assistant, as a coach, as someone to brainstorm on projects. So many reasons that I use AI. However, regardless of these numerous benefits, it presents us with unprecedented ethical challenges. So let's explore some of the most pressing ones. Data privacy, that's number one. And I can speak to this as a researcher, as a coach, as an educator. Data privacy is key. It's prevalent in our schools, it's everywhere. So the collection and use of personal data has become a gold mine for businesses. It's also a minefield for privacy concerns. Right, so that's why we call it a double-edged sword. So how can leaders balance innovation while protecting consumer rights? For example, companies like maybe Facebook, right? They face intense scrutiny over data breaches and misuse of personal information. How about healthcare, right? So you're wanting to delve into all this, exploring technology, right? In colleges, universities. There's also issues of students, using AI to cheat, in their exams and all that. And so there's really a lot of data privacy issues. One wanting to use maybe ChatGPT, putting even personal identifier information in there. There's just so many ethical concerns. As a leader, how do you navigate those things? How about ethics, right? Especially when it comes to AI. We know that AI is rapidly advancing, but it's not without its own ethical implementations or implications. From an algorithmic bias to autonomous weapons, leaders must grapple with the potential consequences of this powerful technology, right? So when we're thinking of using AI, maybe doctors using AI, to make their work easier, maybe to document patient notes at the end of the day. What happens to patient personal information that can be transmitted across the board, and there is no, how do you address those privacy issues, right? And so those things are really worth considering when you're a leader. What about transparency and accountability? In an era of fake news, misinformation, when we go to ChatGPT, we all know about the hallucinations of AI, right? Making up stuff. Trust in institutions is eroding. We're not trusting where the sources are from anymore these days. Tech companies have a unique responsibility to be transparent, where they're gathering all this data. When you're wanting to use maybe ChatGPT or any generative AI, how are you intentional as a leader to make sure that you're checking the sources? How intentional are you in terms of transparency and accountability, right? So look for ways to really mitigate all this misinformation on all these various platforms that you are leveraging AI or any of this technological, options. Technologies, or I would say tech companies play a pivotal role in our daily lives, influencing everything from how we communicate to how we consume information. And now, what about controversies around misinformation on social media platforms? This has highlighted a need for greater transparency and accountability. As leaders, we must ensure that the operations are not just efficient, but also transparent and accountability to the public. Now, what about the issue of digital divide? That's another thing, right? And so it's really a pressing issue. There are so many benefits of technology, but they're not evenly distributed. This creates disparity that can perpetuate inequality. So leaders must address the digital divide and ensure equitable access to technology and its benefits across the boards. Maybe creating initiatives like closing that digital divide in rural areas or providing affordable internet access, right? That's another option, and it's really crucial. So look for ways as a leader to expand on internet access if that's the area of divide that you're facing. Making digital tools more affordable. If you're in a school and you're in a program, make everybody have access to those to be able to close the digital divide. So this has to be accessible to everybody, including underprivileged communities. So now we've talked about the challenges, right, of technology in our society these days, and we also talked about the benefits. So now, how do we even cultivate an ethical culture? Because that's what's required to be able to create the change from the foundation, right? So not so much reacting, but being able to put together a plan in place to address this issue all the way in across the board. So there's consistency across every area of the organization. So how do you even go about creating an ethical culture, right? And so it goes beyond, you might be thinking, well, just put compliance in place. I'll tell you that it goes beyond compliance. It's about laying a strong foundation, like I mentioned earlier on, for sustainable access and success. So leaders can do that, and by doing so, they can actively cultivate this environment. So how do they do that? First of all, they're wanting to lead by example. Many times leaders do not model ethical behavior. Today we're looking at the intersection of technology and leadership, specifically in the area of ethics. So as a leader, are you modeling ethical behavior? This should start at the top. I can recall in my leadership journey many years ago when I experienced leaders doing otherwise. My boss is doing otherwise. So what are you teaching your people? Right? So they're copying the bad example, which is, of course, unethical. And then, before you know it, the unethical culture is visible across the board. So leaders must embody and demonstrate their commitment to ethics in every decision they make, in every relationship, in every touch point across the organization. One time I had a leader who would go ahead and actually even, change people's password, impersonate their passwords, pretend that they're them just to get them in trouble. That's so unethical. Actually, it's even illegal. And why would you even go through that length? Right? It's really unethical. As leaders, we have to be able to show the good example. The employees are watching us. So what do you want them to learn from you? 10 years from now, when you interview them, what do you want them to say? What did they learn from you? Did they learn anything good, or did they reinforce their unethical behavior? Hopefully you choose the former, right? And now the second point is about defining clear values and expectations. So to develop or cultivate this ethical culture, be articulate and disseminate a clear set of ethical guidelines that can inform the behaviors expected within the organization. Employees should not be looking around trying to find this information. It has to be visible across the organization. An employee should be able to demonstrate, articulate their clear values and expectations, which should reflect ethical leadership. Right now, another area to cultivate this ethical culture is about investing in ethical training. Right. So I do empower a cohort of middle managers and supervisors. And part of the training that we do provide is ethical training, ethical leadership, right? So invest, create those training programs that you can provide your leaders with the tools to handle these ethical dilemmas effectively, right? Create even role play, real world scenarios, so they can be able to model or just see what it looks like and practice, in their lessons that you create within these training programs, so that you can use that to reinforce some of those great ideas in ethical training, right? And then so always create a psychological safe environment for your people. Ensure a secure system where employees, when they report unethical behavior, they can do that without being afraid of reprisal, right? Sometimes you're gonna report something and then that is used against you. That should not happen, right? So also engage stakeholders, include employees, customers, and the community in discussions about your organization's ethical practices. And so that way you can ensure diverse perspectives are considered. So think about, incorporating ethical decision-making frameworks. If you're not currently doing that, what are some ways that you can equip employees in decision-making frameworks so that you can use that to guide your choices? So as technology advances, the ethical landscape leaders must navigate this carefully. And of course, this is complex. But by understanding these intricacies and proactively building an ethical culture, you as a leader can steer your organization towards a future that is marked by both innovation and integrity. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Empowerment News podcast. We hope that this discussion sparks further reflection on how you can enhance ethical practices within your own leadership roles. Please share your thoughts and feedback on our social media channels and join us next time for more insights into the intersection of technology and leadership. Until next time, stay safe, be well. This is Dr. Maurine Kwende signing